A very good morning to all of you. I hope you all are keeping well, and I hope that you all are making the most of this time and utilizing this time constructively, not only by doing the lessons which we teachers are providing you, but also by pursuing new hobbies or learning new skills. So, dear students, today we are going to start up with a new chapter, and again let's discuss few questions. So, number one is, what do we need to live? So, the answer is there on the screen. We need food, air, and water. Now, my second question is, when we run, why our breathing rate become fast? You know that when you run or when you do some exercise, the breathing rate becomes fast. Yes, so the answer lies in understanding that why we breathe basically. Actually, when we run, the breathing rate becomes fast because our body needs so much of oxygen there just to meet the demand of our body. So, for that, the breathing rate increases, and it increases to gain more of oxygen. So for that we have to understand what is breathing, and we will understand that also that breathing is a part of respiration. So our today's chapter is chapter number 10, Respiration in Organisms. Now my first question to you is, now why do we respire? All the living organisms are made up of small microscopic units called the cells. I have written here in points just to make sure that it should be very clear to you and you can understand it in small points. So the very first thing, like suppose when we make a wall, what is the basic need is? You need bricks. Yes. So similarly, the whole body is made up of small cells. You will study everything about these cells in detail in higher classes. But here we have to start up with this, that whatever the organism, whether it is a horse, there is a camel, cat, dog, any human being, any living being, maybe plants also, they are made up of small microscopic units called the cells. Now these cells, what are the functions of these cells? Actually they group together, okay, and they perform some functions like digestion, respiration, transportation, excretion, and these all processes takes place inside your body. When you eat food, what is the process? Digestion, right? When you take in oxygen, give out carbon dioxide. When you breathe, you inhale in air. Just now you can do inhale your air in, that is the oxygen has gone, and when you exhale out, that is carbon dioxide. Then transportation, in your whole body the blood is being transported. If you get a minor cut on any part of the body, what will come out? Blood. And then is the excretion. Excretion means to throw out the waste products from your body. Whatever which is now not needed by your body, whatever your body needs, it has utilized, and whatever is left now is the waste. So it will be excreted out of your body. So these are done by the cells in a collective form. And these cells can perform this function only if they get energy. Naturally, when you will eat some breakfast, then only you will be able to do some work. Right now, you must be playing some indoor games only. But if you are playing outside, you need some food. When you used to come to school, you used to have some breakfast. Yes, and the ones who were not taking the breakfast, they were, what was happening to them? You remember? Getting, oh ma'am, I'm feeling some dizziness and all. So we need food to get energy. So all the living organisms, they need food which gives them the required energy. And this energy present in the food get released when the organisms respire or breathe. Right? This is easy. Now let's move further. Now here I am showing you some pictures, and here it's very simple that all living things, they respire. Now what is respire? Sometimes I am saying respiration, sometimes I am saying breathing. What is this? Respiration is a process that includes breathing only. Right? Now first of all, let me clear you what is breathing. The movement of air in and out of the body. When the air moves in, when you inhale in and when you exhale out of the body, right? And that is through the nostrils. You take in air through the nostrils, you give out air through the nostrils, and that is known as breathing, right? And respiration we will do just now further. Let me complete this. For example, animals like earthworms, they breathe through skin. We will do this also in detail. Fishes, they use gills for breathing. Plants also, they have small tiny pores below the surface of the leaves, that is known as stomata, and you cannot see that pores, and they are present on the surface of the leaves for the exchange of gases. The way we take in oxygen, give out carbon dioxide, plants take in carbon dioxide and give out oxygen. Now you can see some pictures of the animals. These all animals, they respire. Whether there's a whale, there's a buffalo, right? There's a plant also, right? Fish, snake, human being, all. Now I told you that for respiration you need energy, and from where you will get energy? From food. Now how this food helps you in gaining the energy? As we breathe is simple. When you take in air, we take in air that contains oxygen in it, and when we breathe out air, which contains what? Carbon dioxide. Now this oxygen which has entered in our body is transported to our cells. I told you in the beginning that the body is made up of cells. The basic unit of the body is cells. Now this oxygen has reached to the cells, and now these cells, they help in, now this oxygen which has reached these cells, it helps to break down the food and to get energy. Now when I am talking about the cells, that is cellular respiration. Now here in this picture you can see I have shown one human being which is breathing. Breathing means inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation means inhalation of oxygen. You can see in blue color. The boy is inhaling oxygen through the nostrils, going through the trachea. Now that trachea is present near the chest. It goes from your throat. I will show you further. Then to the lungs. And in lungs also we have cells. I told you, you have cells in digestion, respiration, excretion, transportation. You can see one cell there. And what are we giving out? Carbon dioxide, which is shown in red arrows. Yes? Now let's see the cell. Now can you see this cell? This is very small body. It has one important organelle, that is mitochondria. It is written there. Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Like you have brain. Brain gives you commands to do the work. Computer has CPU. So similarly, this mitochondria is the powerhouse and it only helps to do the work. Now, whatever the oxygen which we are taking in and whatever the food is we have eaten, it is in the cell. The food is in the cell, and that food is in the form of glucose. You can see the formula of the glucose there, C6H12O6. C6 means carbon 6. H12 is hydrogen 12. And oxygen 6 again. Now on this food, when oxygen acts, it gives you energy and water vapors. Now this energy which we get in the science, earlier you used to do that, you eat food, you get energy. But now you have come to a little higher class, so we will tell you that this energy which you get is in the form of ATP. And what is this ATP? I have written there ATP. This ATP is the energy currency cells, right? We will study about these ATPs and mitochondria in the next class, but from here we start the initiation, right? So the energy is in the form of energy currency cells and we call them ATP. Now let's move further. Now what is cellular respiration? Again, I will explain here in the written form. It can be defined as the process in which the food that we eat is broken down inside the cell only, right? And it results in the release of energy. Now all the cells in living organisms undergo cellular respiration. This is really very important. All the cells, okay? All the cells, they undergo respiration. And the cellular respiration takes place. How does it take place? It takes place in a cell organelle called mitochondria. Now the oxygen that an organism breathes in, it reacts with the glucose. Glucose is what? Your carbohydrate which is present in the food, and it gives out carbon dioxide, water and energy. Now let's move further. Again, in the written form I am showing you. First I show you the pictures and now I have written it here also. Breathing. It is the process in which the organisms, with the help of respiratory organs. Now which are your respiratory organs? You can name out. Nose. You know simply nose. You know windpipe and you know lungs. Right? And we will do further it in detail also. Right? Now with the help, I have just mentioned it here because this is the beginning. And by the end of the chapter, you will come to know about them also. So with the help of these respiratory organs, they take in oxygen-rich air present in the surroundings and release out the air that contains high amount of carbon dioxide. So it occurs in two processes, inhalation and exhalation. Again, I am repeating. Inhalation means taking in air, taking in oxygen inside the body. Exhalation means exhaling out carbon dioxide out of the body. Again, I am repeating. Breathing means inhalation and exhalation, right? And respiration means whatever the oxygen you are taking in, it acts on the food and gives you the energy with water vapors, and that energy you utilize to do the work. So breathing is a part of respiration, right? Let's move further. Some important notes are here. Breathing rate. What is breathing rate? When you run faster, what happens? Your hearts are duk 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 duk. Yes? So that breathing rate increased. Even the heartbeat, that is duk duk duk, is your heartbeat. Basically, that is not duk duk. That is the heart sound, and that is lub and dup. Okay, that is lub, L-U-B, and dup, D-U-B. Right? So that is the sound, and the breathing rate also increases, means you take more of the oxygen. So what is breathing rate? It can be defined as the number of times a person breathes in a minute. You can keep your one finger near the nose, near your both nostrils, okay, and do one activity. Take in air and exhale out. Okay, you will feel that your finger is having little wetness. Don't blow your nose, okay? Just give out the air. You will feel some wet. That is what? The water vapors, right? And you can also count your breathing rate, but I have mentioned it here. Let's do further. A breath can be defined as an inhalation followed by exhalation. And it is not constant. Breathing rate is not constant. Right? We generally breathe faster when our body needs more energy. When you exercise, when you run. So the body needs more of oxygen because it has to break down the food to get more of energy. When you run, you need more energy. When you exercise, you need more energy. Right? So an average adult human being breathes, breathes, B-R-E-A-T-H, breathes 15 to 18 times in a minute. Right? 15 to 18 times in a minute. While exercising, this rate can change up to 25 times a minute. When you exercise, it will increase, okay? Now here I am shown what happens when you breathe. What happens when you inhale and exhale? It's a very simple exercise. While studying this only, you can do this also. Just inhale. Now when you inhale, there is a diaphragm. You can see in the picture, there is this red color area. You can see, right? In this, there is a curve. And I have written diaphragm moves down. When you inhale, the diaphragm moves down, the ribs moves upwards. Just do that, and the ribs moves upward, diaphragm moves down. So there is an increase in the space of chest cavity. And what happens there? It leads to the movement of air inside the lungs. Now the air has entered inside the lungs. And during exhalation, when you will exhale out, from the former position, the ribs will move downwards. Earlier the ribs moves upwards. Now the ribs will move downwards, and it will reduce the size of the chest cavity. You can do it just now while just reading and listening to me. You just inhale, the ribs will move up, right? And what will happen? You will feel that there is some increase in the space in the chest cavity. There what is happening? Air is entering. And when you exhale, the ribs moves down and reducing the size of the chest cavity. So air will move out of the lungs. Now we are talking that food is giving energy, we are utilizing energy, but every time we are respiring. Yes? So it means every time the oxygen on the food is being acting. Now how this energy is stored in the food which is to be used by the body. Now listen very carefully. We know that during the process of breathing, we take in air. And which air we take in? Oxygen is taken in, while carbon dioxide is released out of the body during breathing. So oxygen is then circulated to all cells of the body, because everybody is eating whatever the food you are taking in. And the food, that is the glucose, is broken down into the cells with the help of the oxygen. That is cellular respiration. Right? I have explained it earlier also. Now I am explaining you two more respirations. Now there are respirations. One, very simple. In very simple words, in very one single line, I will explain you. If the respiration is being done in the presence of oxygen, that is aerobic. Right? And if it is done in the absence of oxygen, that is anaerobic. Very simple. Presence of oxygen, aerobic. Absence of oxygen, anaerobic. Now let's come here. Two types of respiration takes place in the cells, because every cell doesn't get oxygen. Okay. So one occurs in the presence of oxygen, while other occurs in the absence of oxygen. The process of breakdown of food in the presence of oxygen is known as aerobic, and it takes place in all organisms, right? And it leads to production of carbon dioxide, water and energy. I have written the equation also. Glucose, the formula I have given you in before also. C6H12O6, right? And further now, below that you just see food is broken down in absence of oxygen. Now this process is known as anaerobic respiration, and it occurs in the organisms like yeast, right? And this leads to the production of alcohol and carbon dioxide. You can see the equation there. Right? Alcohol. That alcohol is the one which we get. It's like wines and beers also. It is used to make that also. Even the dough which sometimes mama used to make, that bhaturas, she make a dough of flour, that fine flour, that is the maida also. When she knead it, she put some yeast just to make that the dough should get fermented. Even for idlis and alls, right? That batter is fermented. Fermented means a smell of little sourness, little sour taste also. That is the fermentation, right? Let's move further. Now here I have written again the equations so that it should be very clear to you. For cellular respiration, on the glucose, oxygen is acting, giving you CO2 and water in the cells, okay? Aerobic, glucose is acting with oxygen, giving you CO2 and water. Anaerobic, glucose gives you alcohol and carbon dioxide, right? Let's move further. Now anaerobes. Now till now you understood what are anaerobes. Now anaerobic means which is in the absence of oxygen. So anaerobes are the organisms which do this process. So that can organisms that exist in absence of air. There are some organisms, okay, and they undergo anaerobic respiration. Example I have given you earlier also, yeast. It's a unicellular organism. And this is what I was telling you earlier also. They release ethanol and CO2, and that is why they are used to make wine and beer. And this is called alcohol and fermentation, right? Okay, now here is the difference between aerobic and anaerobic. Anaerobic, again I have repeated. Aerobic, in the presence of oxygen. Anaerobic, absence of oxygen. Aerobic exchange of gases takes place in an organism, inside the organism and outside the environment, right? You take in air and you give out CO2. In anaerobic, there is no exchange of gases, okay? Only the glucose is there without, because nothing is needed there. Anaerobic occurs in cytoplasm and mitochondria. What is mitochondria? Powerhouse of cell. Anaerobic takes place only in cytoplasm. Aerobic releases CO2 and water, whereas in anaerobic the products can vary. They may vary. Sometimes it will release alcohol, sometimes it will release lactic acid. Depends. Whatever is the product, you will get the whatever will be the reactant, you will get the product, right? And then example, in aerobic respiration, it is in human cells, all human cells. You can write plant cells, animal cells also. And anaerobic, it is yeast and muscle cells. Now, why I have written muscle cells? If you see in the previous slide, I have written here lactic acid. Last line, can you see? Glucose without oxygen, alcohol, lactic acid, energy. And now this lactic acid, how is it produced? Now this lactic acid is produced when these muscle cells, I have written here in the example muscle cells, when the muscle cells does not get proper amount of oxygen, then what happen? We get some pains in the muscle. So when you go to the doctor, they gave either you some MRs to you, some cramps you get, sometimes they give you the vitamins and all. This is what the lactic acid is there. Formation of lactic acids takes place, right? So it means the body needs more of oxygen. That is why I was telling you, if the reactant means the product which you have taken in the beginning. Like if you have taken yeast, it will form alcohol. In muscle cells, it will form what? Lactic acid, right? Let's move further. Now here is the human respiratory system. You can see the nasal passage. Yes. And there is oral cavity also. Oral cavity is your mouth, tongue and food pipe. Okay. Now you can see the pharynx also. Now this pharynx is where? Inside the neck. Okay. You cannot go inside, but outside you can feel it. If you touch your throat, just try to touch it right now so that you can understand. If you touch your throat, you will feel some cartilaginous structure here. Can you see that? Some ring-like structure, that is trachea. Below that, if you go, there is some soft area also, that is the pharynx. Okay, now just touch your pharynx and just look into the diagram. Yes, that is the pharynx. Now that trachea goes below. Can you see that? There is trachea label there. I told you some rings-like structure. This is made up of cartilages. You can see it goes there, and from that area, the air goes inside the lungs. Now these lungs are protected by what? Some rib cage-like structure. Can you see the ribs? And you can feel your ribs on your chest also. These ribs moves from front till the back of your area. Okay, and then is the diaphragm. You can see that curved line again. Earlier also I showed you. This is your human respiratory system. Let's move further. Now I have written it again in points just to simplify it. In respiratory system of humans, we take in air present in the environment through our nostrils, which travel through the nasal cavity. So you are inhaling from the nasal nostrils, it is going to the nasal cavity. When you put some drops in your nose, some medicine, where does it goes? It comes to your mouth. Yes. So there is an opening from the nasal cavity to the mouth. That is why our you must have heard also this ENT doctors. Yes, ENT is what? Ear, nose and throat. These three regions are interrelated, right? Okay, let's come to our topic. So we take in air present in the environment through nostrils and it travels to the nasal cavity. Now it moves to the windpipe. Windpipe is your trachea only, right? And reaches the lungs. Now lungs are located in chest cavity, which is surrounded by ribs. No problem, easy. And on the floor of the chest cavity lays a muscle sheet called the diaphragm. And during the breathing process, the movement of the ribs and the diaphragm takes place. Yes? And this is so because the lungs expand and contract during breathing. This I have explained you now in breathing, in inhalation and exhalation. And the last point is, as we take in air, it fills up the lungs and this moves the diaphragm down and ribs outwards. We have discussed it again. Now again I have shown you relaxed breathing. Relaxed breathing is right now the way you are sitting. It's a relaxed breathing. You are breathing in air, but it is not like the chest is expanding like anything. Simple expansion. But still the process will remain same. Whether you are running at that time, in breathing, there will be contraction of the diaphragm, expansion of the chest, and it will be in the relaxed breathing also. In relaxed breathing means you are sitting simply. Again, when you are breathing in air, the chest will expand, diaphragm will contract, abdomen will expand. And in breathing out, chest will contract, abdomen will contract, and diaphragm will relax. Okay, very easy to learn is like chest and abdomen, two things are expanding when you breathe in. This is, you can do it and you can feel it. And diaphragm contracts. And on other side, chest and abdomen contracts now and the diaphragm relaxes, right? Let's move further. Now there is one question, why do we sneeze? Actually, if we would have been in class, I must have asked you, and I know that you all are really very intelligent and you must be able to give the answers. And here I have written the answer. As we inhale air present in the surrounding, sometimes various unwanted elements like smoke, some dust, some any particle, they all entered in our nose and they get stuck in the hair, in our nostrils. We all have small fine hairs in our nostrils, but some of them can get through the nasal cavity, means they go inside, oh my god, and they cause irritation. But when they go little beyond the nasal passage, then they cause irritation. And what happens then? We sneeze, we feel some discomfort and we try to get rid of that unwanted particle. So because of that we sneeze, right? This why do we sneeze is been given in your NCERT book in the blue color paragraph. Okay, now let's come to the respiratory system of a cockroach. We have done about the human beings, easy. Now you understood breathing and what is breathing, what is respiration. Let's come to respiratory system of cockroach. Very simple. You know, all organisms respire, but in breathing of cockroach, these cockroaches, can you see I have written spiracles here and air sacs? These spiracles are small black color. Can you see there? These are the small holes. You know, all cockroaches have small openings on the sides of their body. And these are known as spiracles. And these spiracles helps in breathing. Now you can see the tracheal tube is also there. I showed you the trachea in human beings. Now the tracheal tube is also here in the cockroaches. And they have air sacs. We have lungs. Where we fill the air, they have air sacs. So they take in air to the spiracles. It reaches to the air sacs. Now just see here. So many insects like cockroaches have small openings called spiracles present on the sides of the body. Okay, hole. And they have air tube like structure called trachea for the exchange of gases, because if they will inhale, they will exhale also. And the air enters through spiracles and diffuses in the cells via trachea. Now the air from the cell similarly enters the trachea and moves out of the body through spiracles. It means the same way we take in air from nostrils, give out air from nostrils only. Similarly, in the cockroaches, they take in air through the spiracles and they give out air also through the spiracles, right? Let's do another organism, and that is the earthworm. You must have seen during it in rainy season. Now I have written on one side carbon dioxide, on one side oxygen. Now in oxygen it is going inside the skin, and in carbon dioxide it is going out of the skin. Can you see this in the picture? Yes. Now these earthworms, basically they have a soft, sliming and moist skin. Very soft. Slimy means a little wet. Slime, you play with slime also, and moist means wet. Slime means like a spongy type slimes, like your jellies and all, right? And hence the gases, they can pass in and out of the earthworm through the skin. Even the frogs have slippery and moist skin, so they can help in breathing. However, frogs contain lungs too. You have done it in previous class also, in class 6 also, about the amphibians. Amphibians are the animals which live on land as well as in water. So when they come to land, they breathe through lungs, and when they go in water, they breathe through gills. So similarly here, the frogs, when they are on the land, they breathe through the lungs. When they go inside the water, they breathe through their moist skin. Further, another one animal, very simple, very small, that is the fish. And you all know, they have underwater special respiratory organs, because they are underwater always, these fish. That organ is gills. So humans have lungs, I'll repeat. Cockroaches have spiracles. Then earthworm breathe through skin. Frogs breathe through skin as well as lungs, and this fish breathe through gills. And this gill is like a comb-like structure present on the skin of these animals, and they allow the exchange of gases. Okay, and this amphibians I have explained you before also. They can breathe on land by the lungs and through moist skin under the water. Now we were talking about animals, and let's come to the plants. We know plants also respire. They take in carbon dioxide. Why they take in carbon dioxide? To make food by the process of photosynthesis, and they give out what? Oxygen. So all the parts of the plant, they independently respire, take in carbon dioxide, give out oxygen. But this taking in of CO2 and giving out of oxygen is by the small pore-like structure called stomata. Now this is okay. This is very about the young plants. What about the woody plants? The woody plants also respire, and this is because they have a special tissue called lenticels. And the cells of this tissue has an intercellular space. They are dead cells, woody cells. You must have seen a trunk of a tree which is woody. If you see it minutely, there are some spaces also. And that is what lenticels. And that is impermeable, the bark. Basically the brown area is bark which you touch. But wherever there is some empty space, that is the lenticels. That is lens-like cell. The bark is impermeable. Impermeable means it does not let in and let move out. It is a wall. It doesn't allow anything to enter inside, and it doesn't allow anything to move out. So this bark is impermeable to gases, but the small spaces are permeable, means they allow to exchange of the gases, and that is through lenticels. I'll show you a picture. You can see this is a green stem, and there are some small dots. Have you seen? Now this green area is bark, and the small white like dot structures are your lenticels, right? Now dear students, this is what we have recapitulate. Because by this last lenticels topic, the chapter has finished. Let's recall what we have done. Breathing. What we have done in breathing? Inhalation and exhalation. Simple. Taking in air, giving out carbon dioxide. Respiration, when oxygen acts on the food to give you energy. Cellular respiration, when oxygen acts on the food which is in the cell, that is a glucose. Okay, it gives you energy. Aerobic respiration means takes place in presence of oxygen. Anaerobic takes place in absence of oxygen, right? Respiratory system in human beings you have done. So you take in air through the nostrils, goes to the trachea via the pharynx, reach to the lungs, right? In the cockroaches, the air goes inside the body through the spiracles, the tiny holes which are present on the body, and comes out also through the spiracles. Earthworms, they breathe through the skin and they have slimy, wet, moist skin, right? They are soft to touch. And fishes, they respire through the gills. And in case of the respiration in the plants exchange their gases through stomata, which are present on the surfaces of the leaves. But in the woody plants, they breathe through the lenticels, which are lens-like structures. With this chapter finishes, dear students, and I hope you all have understood it really well. And there is a worksheet also which is enclosed along with it. Kindly do it. In few questions I have written answers, but for few I have given it to you only because you have understood the video. Kindly do it, okay? Thank you so much. Stay home, stay safe.